Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Washington Commanders franchise here on Madden NFL 24. And today is going to be a good one because we are going to go through the free agent period of the offseason, see what big names are on the move in the NFL. And this offseason free agency did not disappoint. So I hope you're excited for this one. If you are, make sure you drop that like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. Now, before we get into the offseason, we're going to take a look real quickly at the season recap. Now, if you watched the live stream episode, we did find out that it was the Eagles who beat the Chiefs 42-30 in the Super Bowl. Swift set a record with 4 rushing touchdowns to get Super Bowl MVP, and the Eagles get their revenge. And that will bring us to the offseason, which starts with retirement. See what big names are retiring in this offseason. There's some big ones. Bobby Wagner is officially calling it a career, as well as former Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore, Demario Davis, Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill of the Packers after leading them to the postseason. Darius Slay goes out on top, Rodney Hudson, Russell Wilson after a year of backing up Shedeur Sanders. A lot of big names get to call it quits this offseason. You can see the full list on your screen. There's a couple of other ones. Andy Dalton, Nick Folk, the longtime kicker. We see Matt Ryan in just a second also decides to call it quits. Nick Foles also retires, and that is just a long list of those who will be hanging up the cleats. So a couple names that didn't retire, specifically Kirk Cousins on our team. He is still going to give it a go at age 37, and he's regressed quite a bit during this offseason period. He's now a 72 overall. It's plus 6 morale, so don't pay too much attention to that. He's no longer really a starting quarterback in my eyes. He's gone down to normal dev, and a lot of his throwing traits have regressed. So that means Michael Penix Jr. would be in line to be our starter, but he's also been hit with some bad news. We drafted him with hidden development. He now has normal development, so maybe Penix did not progress like we wanted to, sitting behind Kirk Cousins for a year. He's still going to get the go, but normal dev, that's kind of scary. Another player who went down in dev was Antonio Gibson. He got superstar last year, and after an injury-riddled season and kind of backing up Singletary a lot, he has now gone down to star dev a year after signing his contract extension. But it wasn't all regression. We had 2 players go up to superstar. Devin Singletary, after his crazy season, is able to go up in dev. A great pickup at the trade deadline, in my opinion, from Baltimore. Really played good down in the second half of the season. So I think he is worthy of that superstar ability. He gets short out elite a receiving ability as well as goal line back, which is what Antonio Gibson had. The other guy who went up in superstar dev is Montez Sweat. He is up to superstar after a pretty solid season of his own, which means 3 out of our 4 starting linemen are superstar dev or better, so not bad. Defensive line continues to be our strength, and well, Montez Sweat's just going to add on to that. He gets persistent and goal line stuff. Now, before we get into the re-signing period, I do want to go through the head coaching changes because it was an interesting coaching carousel this year. Starting off with the Jets, they have gone and hired Joe Lombardi to be their head coach. He has spent the past 2 years as Denver's offensive coordinator behind Sean Payton. They let go of Robert Saleh, and they're hoping Lombardi, whoever is the new starting quarterback, he can help them progress. Then on to the Buccaneers. They hire Brian Schottenheimer to give him his first chance at being a head coach. He spent the past 2 years as Dallas's OC and has been a part of that great offense out there underneath head coach of the year last year, Mike McCarthy. Dallas's other coordinator gets picked up by the Saints. Dan Quinn gets another chance in the NFC South. He was the former Atlanta Falcons head coach, led them to that Super Bowl that they absolutely blew. His second chance now with the New Orleans Saints. The Titans are also going to give a second chance to Jim Schwartz. He's been with the organization for a total of 11 years, including 7 as their DC. He was the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And the last one's the funniest one. Matt Nagy is back in Chicago. Yes, they have hired Nagy for a second stint in Chicago country. Tell me that isn't a Bears thing to do. So now we'll go on into re-signing, starting off with our free agents, and there's a little bit of a list, as you can see. There's a couple of names. Samuel, both are starting tackles. Kirk Cousins, our starting quarterback, our starting punter as well. The first one is Jahan Dotson. He's not a free agent, but he has an option for next year, and I like Dotson a lot. He's young. I think he's a good receiver, but I don't think he's fully played to his potential yet. He's never gone over 520 yards, and he's been kind of, inconsistent recently. And I would like to pick up his option, but it would cost us $23 million next year, so I'm going to have to reject, and Dotson's going to have to bank on himself to cash in on that big contract that I'm hoping for. We also have Curtis Samuels at free agents. We picked him up last year in the preseason after he didn't go signed, and I think I'm kind of going to do the same thing. If Samuel doesn't get picked up in free agency, I'll bring him back, but I'm really in no hurry to give him a 3-year extension, so we will also not be offering him a contract. That brings us to our next player in Sam Cosmi, our starting right tackle, who I do like a lot, but he wants 2 years, $18.6 million. That's a lot of money for a team that only has $31 million in cap space. While I think he is a quality starting right tackle, I don't want to give him that full contract. We'll offer him a 1-year, $8.4 million contract, and he would actually not want to do that. So we're actually just going to go ahead and withdraw the offer instead of wasting our time. That brings us to our nickel corner then, Benjamin St-Juste, who took over for that role once we traded Lenore to the Bears at the deadline. I thought he was okay. I thought he was, a little hit or miss. I like him a lot, though. I want to give him a 1-year contract, $3.9 million, but he does not accept that, so we will also be looking for a new nickel corner. De'Ami Brown, another depth wide receiver who's young, but 2 years, $10 million. I don't think he's really earned that, so we're not going to offer him a contract. Same thing with Dax Mill. I don't want to give him a 2-year deal. I don't think he's earned that one as well. And that brings us to Kirk Cousins, our starting quarterback a year ago. He only wants around $7 million, which is not bad. But, I just don't think he's a starter anymore. I want to give Penix the opportunity to lead, so we're not going to offer Kirk Cousins a contract in the offseason. Next up, Derek Kramer. He was the backup tackle, and he kind of struggled once Leno got hurt. So, yeah, we're not going to offer him $4 million. Chris Paul is just the backup guard depth. We're not going to offer him a 1-year contract. And then we got Charles Leno Jr., our starting left tackle, the other big free agent this offseason. I like Leno, and I think it was pretty apparent that once he got hurt, the offensive line just wasn't the same. So I think he is a key piece of the line. He wants a big 1-year contract, though, for $13 million. I'm going to offer him 11.7. Hopefully he resigns. And he does not. So Leno will also be testing free agency. So both of our tackles are free agents. Landon Collins was brought back to Washington as a depth linebacker. He will not be re-signed in this stage. Matt Filer was our starting right guard. So 3 out of our 5 starting offensive linemen are free agents. Unlike the other ones, though, he didn't play that good, and he actually got benched in the last week of the season. And Braden Daniels actually played good in that right guard spot. So because of that and Fowler's regression, he will not be offered a contract. We will officially move on from him. And then lastly, Tressway was our starting punter. I do think we could do better than Tressway at the punting position, so we're not going to offer him a contract as well. So we re-signed nobody out of our free agents. I thought about Leno and the franchise tag, but yeah, 27.7, that's quickly going to go by the wayside. Now, we're not done in this period. There's 2 more things I want to address. One of them being backup right tackle Andrew Wiley, who's been on the team for the first 2 years of the series. We could free up $7 million in cap space if we release him, so we're going to do that, even though I do have interest in potentially bringing him back to be a starting right tackle. And then lastly, a smaller one, we're going to restructure Gibson's contract to free up $2 million this offseason and just push the $1 million to the next 2 years. So that brings us officially to re-signing period number 1. And before we go into the free agents, here is a look at our team. We are going to have a new starting quarterback, and we have no tackles on the roster. So a couple of positions that we need to address, obviously being offensive tackles. We lost our nickel corner in Benjamin St-Juste. That's something also to look out for. And then maybe some line depth and as well. And maybe a quarterback if there's a good one on the market. Oh, and of course, we need a new punter as well. So those are some of our key positions. So let's take a look at the free agency class. We have $41 million in cap space. And right there at the top, Aaron Donald is a free agent. That is a big-time guy to top this class. And there's some other good ones as well. Tyron Smith, the tackle from Dallas, he's a free agent. Charvarius Ward is a free agent. Devontae Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, a lot of big names here in the free agency pool. Now, obviously, the first one that jumps out for us before we get there, starting quarterbacks, here are the quarterbacks, Goff and Lance Wilson, not a good class, so we actually won't be looking at a quarterback in this offseason. Now, the first one that jumps out for us, Tyron Smith. We need a new offensive tackle, and Tyron Smith's one of the best in the league. He has hit a little bit of regression, but he's still a top 10 left tackle in the NFL. So it's not going to be cheap to get him, but, how could you pass that up? If we did want to go on a cheaper option, I do like Isaiah Wynn a lot. He's a free agent, 29 years old, and he's also a very solid left tackle that I think we should also think about. Obviously not on Smith's level, but a little bit cheaper as well. He wants more of a 2-year contract though, while Smith would only really want a 1-year deal. Now, Andrew Wiley, I do want to take care of him. We're going to offer him a 1-year, $4.4 million contract. He doesn't have a lot of interest, so we're just going to offer him a team-friendly deal because I do want to shore up that spot. But back to left tackle. Tyron Smith has 0 teams interested, so I think if there's a time to jump on him, we got to do it now. And we're actually going to offer him a little bit more than a 1-year deal. We're going to offer him 2 years, $26.5 million. He will regress after year 1, but I think it'll be worth it, even if he does regress. Now, Benjamin St-Juste, I still want to potentially look at him. He's been pretty good for us the past couple of years. He had 2 interceptions last year and played okay in the slot when given the opportunity. So we're going to offer him a 1-year contract, only $3.9 million, to hopefully be our returning nickel corner. Here are the other top free agents as we submit the offers, and we get the big one. Tyron Smith has signed his deal. He is the newest Washington Commander. We make a big splash this year, something we didn't really do last offseason, and definitely beef up the blind side or the left tackle spot, as Penix is actually a lefty, so not necessarily his blind side, but a solid left tackle. Now, we also did not get Benjamin St-Juste. I'll show in a second where he went. So we got to look at nickel corner again. I like Michael Davis a lot. I think he's a solid overall corner. I'd like his man to be a little bit higher, but we just signed Smith, so we don't have the most cap space. And he just had 2 interceptions last year for the Chiefs, who were a Super Bowl representative. So we're going to offer him a 1-year, $5 million contract to maybe be our new nickel corner. And right away, he will accept. So Michael Davis slots in for Benjamin St-Juste as our 3rd corner on the team, as that position just kind of continues to be a revolving door here in the team. But hopefully he can solidify it for year number 3. We still have Andrew Wiley, who's a free agent. He has not accepted, but I'm not really going to do anything with his contract as we simulate the first stage of the offseason. And here are where the big names went. Donald took a 1-year deal to the Vikings, so he is now in Minnesota. Charvarius Ward to the Texans on a 1-year contract. Javonte Williams goes to the Bucs on a 4-year deal. Hopkins to Carolina. He returns to the Carolinas on a 2-year contract. Matthew back to Houston. Teron Johnson to the Jaguars, and Shaq Thompson will stay with the Panthers. As well, here's a couple of where the Commanders players went. Leno took a deal with the Titans. Cosme is now with Green Bay on a 2-year contract. And then Benjamin St-Juste actually went to Pittsburgh on a 2-year deal. So we're not going to do anything in stage 2, so we're just going to simulate to the 3rd stage of free agency. A couple of other moves that went down. Carolina was really spendy. They got Jansen Owusu-Komora on a big 4-year deal and Micah Hyde. So Carolina really trying to beef up their team this year and be a threat in the NFC South. Andrew Wiley is still not accepted his contract here in the 3rd stage, but again, nobody's in the hunt, so why not just keep it where it's at? So we'll simulate now to the 4th stage of free agency. Just no one else that I really had interest in, and Wiley does finally sign his 1-year contract. He held out as long as he could, but there was no market for him, so he just takes our deal. So he will be the starting right tackle for us. Definitely a little bit of a downgrade from Sam Cosme, but I think he can hold up on that right side. As well as the quarterbacks, here's where they went. The only 2 that signed were Goff to Green Bay and Trey Lance to New Orleans. That's very interesting. Cousins did not sign a contract, so he's still a free agent. And Curtis Samuel went to Tampa Bay, so he will not be brought back for year 3. So free agency is over, and here's a look at our team. We made one big splash in Tyron Smith, and then otherwise just kind of filled a couple of spots, brought in a right tackle as well as a new nickel corner in Davis. Not the most explosive other than Smith, but I think a good one for us. Let me know what you thought of our free agency period in the comment section below. So next episode will be the NFL draft, as here's a look at the top prospects. I do use real draft classes, so it's a lot of the players, if you've seen college football, that you are familiar with. But still an exciting time. Now, because of our trade last year to get Penix, we actually don't have a first-round pick. We have a pick in every other round, including 2 and 5, 6 and 7. So that'll be next episode. It'll be the NFL draft. We'll go through it. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of our free agency. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm excited to get through the draft and on to year 3 in the franchise. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.